In the grand theater of life on Earth, countless creatures have graced the stage, each with their own role, their own story. But some of these stories have come to an end. This is a journey through the final glimpses of beings that once walked, flew, or swam on our shared planet. What does extinct mean? When a species is declared extinct, it means that no known individuals remain alive anywhere on Earth. It is not simply disappearance. It is the end of an entire lineage, shaped by millions of years of evolution, gone forever. The photographs you're about to see are the last known images ever taken before these animals vanished from the wild forever. Barbary Lion. Last known wild sighting, 1925. Our first story begins in the rugged highlands of North Africa, where kings once roared. This is the last known photograph of a wild Barbary lion taken in 1925, deep within the Atlas Mountains of Morocco. Once revered by Roman emperors and feared across the deserts, the Barbary lion was a giant among lions, larger, broader, with a dark, majestic mane. But even royalty could not withstand rifles, habitat loss, and human expansion. This image is all that remains of a once mighty presence in the wild. Sicilian wolf. The last known photo, circa early 1900s. Our next image brings us to the island of Sicily, where the mountains once echoed with the howl of a ghost, now forgotten. This haunting photograph is one of the very last ever taken of the Sicilian wolf, a small, elusive subspecies of the gray wolf, unique to this Mediterranean island. Lighter, slimmer, and more timid than its mainland cousins, the Sicilian wolf avoided human contact, but could not escape human judgment. Persecuted as a threat to livestock and pushed into shrinking wild spaces, the species steadily declined. By the 1920s, the Sicilian wolf was gone, lost to bullets, fear, and vanishing forests. All that remains is this image, a chain, and the silence left behind. Thylacine, Tasmanian tiger. This haunting photograph captures Benjamin, the last known thylacine, pacing in his enclosure at Hobart Zoo in Tasmania. The thylacine was a shy, nocturnal carnivorous marsupial once found across Tasmania, mainland Australia, and New Guinea. Recognizable by its dog-like body, stiff tail, and dark stripes along its back, it was hunted relentlessly, wrongly blamed for livestock losses. Habitat destruction and disease further sealed its fate. Benjamin died on September 7, 1936, likely from exposure after being locked out of shelter overnight, marking the official extinction of the species. Quagga. This photograph, taken in 1870 at the London Zoo, is the only known image of a living quagga. The quagga was a unique subspecies of the plains zebra, native to South Africa, distinguished by its striking half-striped pattern on the front of its body that faded into a solid brown toward the rear. Once abundant in the grasslands, it was hunted to extinction in the wild by the late 19th century for its meat and hide. The last known individual, shown here in captivity, died at the Amsterdam Zoo on August 12, 1883, marking the species' extinction. Bali Tiger. This rare and tragic photograph shows the body of one of the last known Bali tigers, carried by hunters in the 1930s. The Bali tiger was the smallest of all modern tiger subspecies, native only to the Indonesian island of Bali. With fewer than a few dozen individuals left by the early 20th century, they were relentlessly hunted, both as trophies and due to conflict with humans. The last confirmed wild Bali tiger was shot in western Bali in 1937, leading to the subspecies extinction. No specimens survive in captivity, making photographs like this the only visual record of the animal in its final days. Eastern cougar. This photograph shows one of the last confirmed eastern cougars, a subspecies of the North American cougar once found throughout the eastern United States and parts of Canada. Sleek and powerful, these solitary predators played a vital role in maintaining ecosystem balance. By the late 19th century, relentless hunting, habitat loss, and the extermination of their prey led to their near disappearance. Although occasional sightings were reported for decades, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service officially declared the eastern cougar extinct in 2011, with this image standing as one of the final visual records of the animal. Tarpan. This historic photograph shows one of the last surviving Tarpan horses, a wild subspecies of horse that once roamed the steppes of Europe and Western Asia. The Tarpan was small, with a sturdy build, dun-colored coat, and dark mane, resembling the ancestral wild horses of the region. By the late 1800s, overhunting, habitat loss, and interbreeding with domestic horses had driven them to extinction in the wild. The last known individual died in captivity in Russia in 1909, making images like this a rare visual record of a species that once symbolized the untamed European wilderness. Bubal Hartebeest. This photograph shows a female Bubal Hartebeest that lived in the London Zoo from 4 October 1883 until 27 April 1897, photographed by Lewis Medland in 1895. Once widespread across North Africa, from Morocco to Egypt, the Bubal Hartebeest was a smaller, paler subspecies of hartebeest with distinctive lyre-shaped horns. Overhunting, particularly by colonial militaries, and habitat degradation caused its numbers to plummet during the 19th century. By the early 20th century, the species had vanished from much of its range, and the last known captive individual died at the Paris Zoo in 1923, marking the subspecies extinction. This image is one of the few high-quality photographs documenting the animal in life. Passenger pigeon. This poignant photograph shows Martha, the last known passenger pigeon, perched in her enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo. Martha died at 1 p.m. on September 1st, 1914, marking the official extinction of her species. The passenger pigeon was incredibly fast and agile, with a diet of seeds, nuts, and berries, and played a vital role in forest ecosystems. Its abundance was so great that early settlers believed it could never be depleted. But relentless commercial hunting and large-scale habitat destruction in the 19th century caused one of the most rapid population collapses in recorded history. Martha had outlived her companions. By 1910, she was the sole surviving individual. Despite public sympathy, efforts to pair her with a mate failed. She spent her final days as a solitary, celebrated endling in a 10 by 12-foot cage. Visitors even threw sand in her cage to make her move. After her death, Martha was encased in a 300-pound block of ice and sent to the Smithsonian Institution, where she was dissected, mounted, and preserved as a lasting and haunting symbol of human-induced extinction. This image stands not only as a record of the last individual of her kind, but also as a powerful conservation warning, reminding us how even the most abundant species can vanish when human pressures go unchecked. Pinta Island Tortoise. This photograph shows Lonesome George, the last known Pinta Island tortoise, a subspecies native to Ecuador's Galapagos Islands. Discovered in 1971 on Pinta Island, George became a global conservation icon and symbol of the urgent need to protect endangered species. For decades, scientists searched for another of his kind, but no other purebred Pinta tortoises were ever found. George lived at the Charles Darwin Research Station on Santa Cruz Island, where repeated breeding attempts with related subspecies failed to produce offspring. On June 24, 2012, he was found dead in his corral, estimated to be over 100 years old. His death marked the official extinction of his subspecies. Today, Lonesome George's preserved body is displayed at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, serving as both a memorial and a stark reminder of the fragility of island ecosystems in the face of human impact. Pyrenean Ibex. This photograph shows a Pyrenean Ibex, a subspecies of the Spanish ibex that once roamed the rocky slopes and cliffs of the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain. Known for its sturdy build, backward curving horns, and agility on steep terrain, the Pyrenean ibex thrived in rugged alpine habitats for centuries. Overhunting, competition with livestock, and habitat loss gradually drove its population into steep decline during the 19th and 20th centuries. The last known individual, a female named Celia, was found dead in January 2000, crushed by a fallen tree, marking the official extinction of the subspecies. In 2003, scientists attempted to bring the Pyrenean ibex back through cloning using preserved DNA from Celia. While a clone was successfully born, it died within minutes due to lung defects, making it the first species to go extinct twice. This image serves as one of the few lasting visual records of a unique mountain dweller that disappeared before most people had ever seen it in the wild. Northern White Rhinoceros. This deeply moving photograph shows Sudan, the last known male northern white rhinoceros, resting alongside one of his dedicated caretakers at the Ol Pejeta Conservancy in Kenya. Sudan was a gentle giant and a living reminder of what the world stood to lose. Native to parts of Uganda, Chad, Sudan, the Central African Republic, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, northern white rhinos were driven to the brink by relentless poaching for their horns and decades of conflict in their habitat. By the time Sudan's health began to decline in early 2018, only 2 females, Najin and Fatu, remained, making the subspecies functionally extinct. On March 19, 2018, Sudan was humanely euthanized due to age-related complications, his death marking the end of any natural reproduction for his kind. Today, scientists are working on advanced reproductive technologies, including in vitro fertilization, in a last-ditch effort to bring the northern white rhino back from the edge. This image captures not just the last moments of an animal, but the heartbreak of an entire species story. Javan Tiger. This photograph is one of the last known images of a Javan tiger, taken in 1972 in Meru Betiri National Park, Indonesia. Once widespread across the island of Java, this subspecies was smaller than mainland tigers, with closely spaced, darker stripes and a dense coat adapted to the island's humid forests. The Javan tiger's decline accelerated in the mid-20th century due to deforestation, conversion of land to agriculture, and relentless hunting. By the 1970s, only a few small, isolated populations remained, mostly in protected areas. Despite official protections, habitat loss and human conflict continued to take their toll. The last confirmed sighting was in the 1970s, and the species was officially declared extinct by the IUCN in 2003. Occasional unverified reports and footprints have kept hope alive for some, but no concrete evidence has emerged. This image stands as a haunting final glimpse of a big cat that once roamed Java's dense jungles. Heath Hen. This grainy but historically important photograph shows a heath hen being released into the wild as part of early conservation efforts. The heath hen was a subspecies of the greater prairie chicken, once abundant along the eastern seaboard of the United States, from Maine to Virginia. By the late 19th century, relentless hunting and habitat loss had reduced their numbers to a small population on Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. For a time, conservation measures brought hope. The population rebounded in the early 1900s, but a series of disasters followed, including a devastating fire in 1916, severe winters, disease, and predation. By the late 1920s, only a single male remained, famously nicknamed Booming Ben for his distinctive mating call. Booming Ben was last seen in March 1932, after which the heath hen was declared extinct. This image captures a poignant moment in conservation history, an early attempt to save a species that, despite human intervention, could not escape the combined pressures of environmental change and human exploitation. Baiji, Yangtze River dolphin. This photograph shows Cheeky, the last known captive Baiji, also called the Chinese river dolphin, resting in a holding area after capture during a conservation effort. Cheeky was found injured in 1980 near Dongting Lake and was brought to the Institute of Hydrobiology in Wuhan, China, where he became a living ambassador for his species. The Baiji once thrived in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River, with its long, narrow beak and tiny eyes adapted for navigating the river's sediment-heavy waters. For millennia, it lived relatively undisturbed, but in the late 20th century, industrial expansion along the Yangtze led to habitat destruction, overfishing, collisions with boats, and entanglement in fishing gear. These pressures caused the population to crash. Cheeky lived in captivity for over 2 decades, during which time scientists attempted to study and breed him, but no viable female was available. His death in 2002 left no Baiji in captivity, and just 4 years later, exhaustive surveys failed to find a single wild individual. Declared functionally extinct, the Baiji's story and Cheeky's life remain a sobering reminder of how human activity can erase even the most ancient species from the earth. California Grizzly Bear. This historic photograph shows a hunter standing over a recently killed California grizzly bear, a once iconic subspecies of the North American brown bear that roamed the valleys, mountains, and coastlines of California. Immortalized on the state flag, the California grizzly was famed for its massive size, formidable strength, and fearless nature. When European settlers arrived in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the state's wilderness teemed with thousands of grizzlies. However, the rapid expansion of agriculture, ranching, and human settlement brought the bears into frequent conflict with people. Grizzlies were hunted relentlessly, both for sport and to protect livestock, while their habitat was steadily destroyed. By the early 20th century, the population had collapsed. The last verified sighting of a California grizzly in the wild occurred in 1924 in Sequoia National Park. This image, showing one of the many bears killed during the extermination campaigns, is a stark reminder of how quickly a symbol of wild strength can vanish when human expansion leaves no room for coexistence.